Welcome to the last panel for today's collecting track. We're very happy that you're here, and we have a special group of guests tonight to talk a little bit about what it's like collecting in all the continents. Star Wars was and still is truly a worldwide phenomenon. And tonight we're going to be talking about what it's like collecting items that really span the globe. And so we have a global cast of characters here for you to talk about this topic tonight. So please give a warm round of applause. Hold it till the end because we got a lot of names to read. We got Mark Salati, we got Gus Lopez, we got Brody Walker filling in for our good friend Derek Ho, who couldn't be here today. We got Matias Rendal, we got Luis Villagomez, Gabriel Campos, and Diego Gomez. Please give them a warm round of applause.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Collecting on All the Continents, except Antarctica. We lied about that one. And I'll pass you straight over to Gus.
Yeah, so I have an unusual role here in that I'm covering for a continent where we couldn't get a collector actually from that continent, but I'm going to cover Africa. So there are actually Star Wars collectibles in Africa. And you know, it's not often thought of as a place for, you know, Star Wars collecting, but if you really look at the significance that the African continent's played in making Star Wars, it's kind of a major deal. So first, to start with some of the best cereal boxes. So cereal is something I specialize in. I have a whole room in our house of cereal boxes. There are 200 cereals all over the room, and that's only like 10% of my cereal boxes. I have like over 2,000 different Star Wars cereal boxes. But anyway, I have several from South Africa that often I show to people, and they're like, those are the best cereals that I think have ever been made, because they had this beautiful graphics in the late 90s, and they did a couple different runs of these, and I haven't actually been able to even put together the premiums from it, but it's just a wonderful set. And then where Star Wars was really significant in Africa was in the filming in Tunisia, where the planet Tatooine, as you well know, is, you know, its significance all throughout the Skywalker saga. And yeah, the Admiral Akbar figure, not really anything to do with Tunisia, but the Krayt Dragon Bone does. It was something that on my first trip to Tunisia and subsequent trips, I've been there 4 times, found in the desert. So it's like kind of the ultimate collectible that actually props and set dressing are something that are found in Tunisia still to this day. When I went there the first time, they had just finished filming episode 1, and I did find Krayt Dragon Bone pieces, fiberglass bone pieces from the original Star Wars A New Hope. They had left it in the desert. You could go dig through the sand, and at that time, very few Star Wars fans had been out there, and you could find it in the sand. And so I brought home some big bone pieces, went back the next year, brought back even bigger bone pieces, and also got a lot of stuff from episode 1. There was a guy who owned like a local shop in this town called Nefta that's right sort of on the border of Algeria and southern Tunisia, and he had bought all the set dressing off of you know, the production, the film production, to use as scrap wood and spare parts and stuff. So he had all these things, moisture evaporators, doors, all smaller props. And so on my second trip, we went back and brought back literally a ton full of set dressing and props from Tunisia. So Tunisia plays a very significant role in Star Wars. I encourage you at some point to visit, and if you really want to immerse yourself in Star Wars, that is the place to go. And then this next image, courtesy of Jim Jones, is something that I've been hunting for, I have not found yet. So it's something from Ghana where they have this tradition. They had this tradition in circa like 70s through probably early 90s of hand-painted movie posters. So when a film would go to theaters in Ghana, what they would do is have an artist actually hand paint each poster. They're not printed, so each one is one of a kind. And and for years, like, you know, people were hunting these down, and it's now, and they no longer do it this way there, or at least I've heard they don't do it this way for production, big productions, but it's now become a big thing in like art auctions and art galleries. It's this sort of lost art of how they used to make these posters. And in fact, so much so that there are artists now in Ghana where you can pay them to custom make a poster for you, and so you could give them an image from Star Wars and they could actually make posters for you. But it's a really cool interesting graphics and their interpretation of Star Wars. And if you look on eBay, you can see a whole bunch of like hand-painted posters from Ghana. For Star Wars, way harder to find. So those are some of the highlights of things from Africa. And with that, I'm going to hand you off to Brody.
Thanks, Gus. All right, so I'm here representing Singapore. You probably realise that I'm not actually Derek Ho and don't look like him, but so the start from I guess for a start, the number of countries in Asia, just to start, is about 48 to 50, and across a lot of these, there is multiple different types of product that was released, especially across the original trilogy. But we'll focus on Singapore just to give you an idea of the differences and the highlights that were there. So on this side that you can see is actually, you guys are probably aware of the Return of the Jedi figures. In Singapore, they had a fan club, and as a result, what they used to do is put these stickers on within Singapore, and you could join this fan club. And the story behind that is the idea was that you would be getting all these updates and cool new things that would be sent to you in the mail. And in the end, when you finally do sign up to this, all you got was a notebook or a letter about all the new products that they're selling. So it wasn't actually that good. But that was one of and this product as well was very hard to find, this sticker. So as you can see on this slide, this is probably just a big portion of what's out there at the moment. And yeah, that's all tied up with Derek, I think. Yeah, he's taken over the whole population in Singapore.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Again, another quirky kind of offer that was available in Singapore. On the left, you can see with the Rancor Keeper this yellow square sticker, and this you may have seen elsewhere in another country, maybe talked about as well. But in Singapore, there was an offer for a coin and an Ewok, and what you could do is you would buy this card, you could take it to the counter and effectively get a coin or an Ewok in exchange. And again, this is incredibly rare. This is something that only came up, I think maybe 2015 or 16, and only maybe 3 carded figures or 3 unopened pieces have been found, and only about 4 card backs. So incredibly rare, probably the most rare offer that I know of, at least in Asia, Australasia area. And then on the right, there's also a lot of the normal Star Wars carded figures that came through to Singapore, and a lot of the items that were received in Singapore is very much related to the Australia-based Toll Toys company as well, where they received a lot of the items. So this is just an example of one of those pieces that you would find more down under around Singapore as well, and it's just an example of a price sticker.
Brody, can I ask everyone to memorise that yellow sticker? It'll make sense later.
Yeah, so just jumping back to what I was saying before, there may be something else about this yellow sticker that we'll talk about. Right.
There's a test later.
There's a test. These are just more examples of price stickers that were found in Singapore. And whilst we're talking about Singapore, a lot of the other countries, whilst they had a lot of different Star Wars products, not many had a lot of the Kenner items. And so things have been found in Thailand and as well as Malaysia and obviously in Singapore, but that's pretty much it. It wasn't really well documented or well received anywhere else.
Notice the irony of the upside-down wampa.
I can't even see that.
I'll stop interrupting you now.
Do you want to talk to that then?
No, it's just upside down. Like Luke hanging. Doesn't matter.
Oh, right.
Move on.
Okay. And so in Singapore as well, there was a factory there where they used to manufacture the micro collectibles, and a lot of people used to collect this. Mark on the end, I think, has quite a lot of these in his collection. But what was found was that because these were made in Singapore, a lot of these turned up in the flea markets as unpainted, I guess, prototypes. And so Derek, being Derek, for those who know him, has managed to find maybe 5 sets of these just going through the flea markets and like paying $10 a piece for a whole bag of these things that are probably worth hundreds. So that was pretty cool. That was something I learnt about when I first moved there.
There's no bitterness directed towards Derek, is there?
Not by me, maybe by the other Singaporean collectors. Okay, so this is pretty cool. This is a recently discovered bootleg of R2-D2. I don't think I've ever seen it before prior to this celebration, actually, and I'm not too sure if it was Derek that turned this up. I don't know if the bootleg collectors are getting a bit sweaty over this one yet, but this is pretty cool. I like the colours. And then outside of the toys, there's specific things that were done in terms of like the soundtrack cassettes, videotapes and things like that. Again, very specific for Indonesia, Malaysia and Singapore. And that's especially because of the different languages. So obviously we have Bahasa Indonesia in Indonesia, we have Bahasa Malay in Malaysia, and then in Singapore it might be Mandarin or it could be English. And outside of the toys, where we were talking about the fact that not a lot of product was found outside of Singapore and outside of Malaysia and Thailand, a lot of the comics were released in different countries with different covers. And as you can see in the middle there's the Indonesian versions. And it's funny because the comic covers, as I think are right across the world, are very different between each country. And again, you have to, I guess, look at the fact that they have to be translated into different languages and things like that. And then also in Singapore, what's turned up is these Chinese novels, and these are all in Mandarin or in Chinese. And but again, these sometimes turn up in the flea markets and things like that. I don't think they're hugely collectible, but obviously Derek and a few of the other guys do get these things, and it's just amazing that these things actually existed at the time that Star Wars came out. And the last thing we'll just talk about on my side is the May the 4th event. So this year we set up the display. So every year there's a theme to the May the 4th event in Singapore. It's quite a big event. A lot of people turn up. Not quite as big a celebration as you can imagine. But this year the theme was on displays. So you can see there a lot of the shop displays and things like that were available at the time were on display. So we get a lot of people coming in, taking photos, understanding where these came from, wanting to understand, maybe how to get it or the history behind it, and it really generates a lot of interest. And again, this is put together by a big panel of Singaporean experts, and they do wonders for these events, and it's all generally internally generated from us. We don't get sponsorship or things like that, but it provides a huge outlet for the Singaporean market to come in and have a look at all those different vintage things, and it's very successful.
Are all those things from Derek's collection?
I wouldn't say so. Okay. I think that's the thing. A lot of these guys in Singapore, and there's quite a big collectible group. When it comes to things like that, they all get together and bring their own pieces to display, and that's why you get this massive range of great items. And I guess that's what Singapore's good at: coming together, putting it all together, and educating.
Because I asked Derek if they were his, he wouldn't answer.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't tell me.
Oh, so I've said the right thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pass you back to Mark to talk about
Thank you, Brody. I'll go back to toys just briefly. So in Australia, initially the card backs were printed specifically for the Australian market, and they bear the Toll Toys logo. Now there's photos of the groupings of figures are from a wholesale catalogue, and it's funny the way they've grouped them. But there's 3 distinct groupings, and the series, what they call series 1 and 3, make up the 16 figures that are known to have been available on a Toll Toys card back. Those last 3 were really tough to find, and there's a letter that my mother and I wrote when I was a kid to Toll Toys, begging or asking where can I find a Death Star droid. Couldn't find it anywhere. So I thought you'd like to see that. Now, most of you are familiar with the Power of the Force carded figures. The top 3 are re-releases from the Return of the Jedi line that were exclusively available in Australia. And at the time, the Anakin mail-away offer was running in the US. So the Anakin wasn't available to buy in Australia. So that there's a little letter, there's a rejection letter there at the bottom where I desperately tried to send in my 5 proofs of purchase at $1. And I tried to plead my case in a very nice letter saying, look, please, I know I'm outside of the geographical area, but can you please send me an Anakin? But no. So they sent back my 5 proofs of purchase and my $1. And but I can't really complain because on the right there you'll see it's a Canadian card, but it was released in Canada as well, but also in Australia, the Yak Face. And again, this time I wrote locally to Toll Toys in Western Australia, and I said, look, I just can't find an Anakin anywhere, Yak Face anywhere, can you help me? And they sent me one, which was really nice, for free. Except they cut around the bubble and the coin and they stuffed it in an envelope. So, but at least I got the figure for my collection, so I can't really complain. But there's the little note saying, here's a Yak Face for your collection. Now, gosh, it was sometimes frustrating collecting in Australia, very challenging at least, because you can see here this Empire Strikes Back mini catalogue, the little silver one that you'll all be familiar with all these not available printed on it. And that was the story of my life in the early days. And often it was an item was too large to ship to Australia, and by the time you factor in the cost of shipping, it becomes just too expensive for people to buy. And sometimes, like, the micro line didn't really take off, so they just selected the odd playset to release. And unfortunately, almost every line, the Hoth line, the Bespin line, was missing a playset, so you couldn't complete the run of any of the worlds. Very frustrating. I've heard different reports, like different safety regulations, like the sponge foam in the trash compactor is why it didn't get a release, but I'm not sure. Do you know, Brody, any of that? Because Brody is, of course, Aussie. You may detect the accent. Do you know if there's any truth to that?
No, I'm not too sure. The only reason I know is because of the cost of shipping some of the large items didn't make sense. Okay. And therefore they didn't bring them into Australia because they would have been, eventually they were loss leaders, so some of them were brought in, but at the time, at the beginning, it just wasn't worth Kenner's or Toll Toys' while to do so.
And I know things like that vinyl Empire Strikes Back case, because of the delay of the Darth Vader case, the 2 cases ended up shipping at the same time and it wasn't worth it. So they just released the most popular one and not the vinyl case. They also had a lot of leftover Star Wars vinyl cases that they couldn't get rid of. I remember that in stores as a kid. But Toll Toys really did care, and they'd made other offers available. So the Build Your Armies set, the micro set was available, the display arena and the survival kit, 9 numbers everywhere. And that free Forlom, that beautiful pig sticker, and you'll tell us about that, Brody.
Yep. So this is, again, one of those offers that are this one is available in the US, or was available in the US. But in Australia, because they only released 6 figures with this offer on the card, like printed on the card, they had to supplement the rest of the stock in Australia with this sticker. And again, this was only on the East Coast, I think, as well. So there's not many you don't see this come up too often, whether it's on a card back or on a carded figure. But that was to supplement the fact that there was only 6 that were released in Australia with that offer. And the difference here is that the Australian figures had Australian address on the back that you would send your proof of purchases to. And therefore, for all the other stock that was there, they put this sticker on the front, they put the address on the back with the offer, and that's how you would get the free action figure.
So consider yourself lucky. I'm a fraud. I didn't know these things, so we're lucky to have Brody here to explain that, because I had no idea. Now, these are the yellow sticker that I asked you to remember before. This is the Australian version of it. So I don't know whether they were all manufactured by Toll Toys and used in Singapore as well, or vice versa. Probably Toll Toys, huh?
I would suggest it's all manufactured together, but yeah, I'm not too sure.
Because it's certainly the same style. And all right. Now, off toys for a moment. These are just some other popular. Well, a lot of American friends asked me to look for these things for them, so that's how I know they're popular. These Empire Strikes Back McDonald's cups. Now in Australia, Burger King was called Hungry Jack's. They marketed it in the 70s, I think, and decided that Hungry Jack's was a better name for it.
Actually, Burger King was already taken.
Actually, Burger King was already taken. All right. Anyway, and so there were four glasses, one a week for 4 weeks. The promotion will always run 4 weeks, and I spent a lifetime looking for that fourth Empire Strikes Back McDonald's cup, just looking everywhere for it. Then our friend Todd Chamberlain finally said to me, "Oh no, there's only 3 in that set." So it was so frustrating. But and the bottom 3 are what we call money boxes. There's Commonwealth Savings Banks. Commonwealth is a bank in Australia, and there's 3 different varieties there. And I call this slide Australia's Most Wanted. So thanks to Steve Sansweet and that book that's everyone knows of, that Concept to Screen to Collectibles book, that wonderful book, that Gomorian Guard Bank was pictured in that book and referred to as a prototype, and it mentioned that its availability was limited to Australia. So everyone I've ever known asked me, "Can you find one? Can you find one?" And they're tough to find, but they are around. And of course, the cardboard Death Star playset is another very popular local release. It was created by the UK's Palitoy Company and licensed to Toll Toys. But that's something that I'm often asked to find. And I will pass you over to, who could this be? Matthias.
So thanks. Holy bully, I'm Matthias from Sweden, the Swedish chef from Muppet Show, and so I hope you understand what I'm saying, my accent, jet lag, and everything else. So collecting in Sweden, let's say it like that, but it's difficult to talk about how to collect in Sweden or how the market was back in the day if there wasn't anything to collect at all. Of course, when Star Wars was released in Sweden at the cinemas, it was a big success, as everywhere else. But the toys, the stuff, it wasn't there. Because at the time, Sweden is very political correct, and sometimes there was a big violence debate, a big debate about war, and so politicians.
A little less Jägermeister.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't know. Yeah, well, the guys in charge, they want to ban the toys. Yeah, politicians. Yeah.
Politicians.
Easier. It's better to say that. So it was a huge debate, and it seriously affected Star Wars. And the first company that got the license was a big company called Alga. And this beautiful guy, Hans, he had to defend the Star Wars line in national television. Because, like, why are you saying war toys? Because it was like Star Wars. They didn't even, like, watch the movies. So they got, like, and he's on there talking about, like, it's a fantasy movie up in space. It's not, but it says war. So when Europe started to get tons of toys, we were just waiting, and there were so few items out there for us to collect. So, and while we were waiting, we had to create our own toys. I think the one to the left is a bootleg, and the other one to the right are actually from a collecting friends. His dad made them for him. Well, we didn't have it that bad in Sweden. We have some stuff as well, but it was quite bad, and it's very difficult to find. We're like Singapore. We're like, you have crazy cool Kenner stuff to collect with the Kenner logo and US stuff. So we chase for like price stickers. We're so nerdy and niche. So the only way to like see if it was from Sweden was because of the price sticker from a Swedish store. So and that has become a collectible, and it can be a premium at auction if it has like, oh, that's my childhood store, that store price sticker, and it goes like crazy. Yeah, well, it's really not this bad, but all of a sudden, a couple of years later, in the beginning of the 80s, Star Wars aired on television. And this started like what had happened in all of the other countries all over the world. So after only 1 year and first aired on television, Sweden had sold like 1 million figures, and at the time we were like 6 million. It's like half the size of New York, I think, or something like that. So it became a madness, and so there was nothing to stop about Star Wars from this point on. So they celebrated the 1 million figure with a Darth Vader tour with a touring costume that they hired from Palitoy in the UK. These are actually pictures from my hometown, Helsingborg, in Sweden. So it's nice to see that. So there was such a delay. We didn't start to get figures from like 83, and it was like the last movie came out. So the rare figures in Sweden, it was like Walrus Man. That was rare to come by because we missed those earlier years. But these were dirt common. And like in the 90s, it was like before eBay and stuff, there was like, before I started to collect, but like traders, they traded blue snaggletooth for yak faces. This was a real big thing because like I had like at the early shows, like in the 80s, before I knew they were rare, before I found Gus' website and learned about it all, these were the boring figures. This was awesome. This was rare. Well, and so Playmix was a new license, and the success happened. And Playmix, they're from the same part of Sweden as IKEA, really cheapskate company. They're like, we don't want our own packaging, we don't need that. The kids will only tear them open. So they imported stuff from all over the world, from Canada, from Mecane in France, from Palitoy in the UK. So we can find the whole range, but with Swedish price stickers from all the licensees. So in Sweden, we go for this. If you see the yellow sticker there, it says dolls, figures not included. So that orange sticker, that's like a 100% premium of a price of a product. So we consider that a Swedish collectible. It technically it isn't, but that's what we have to do. We have to find our stuff. But when the success came, there was nothing that was going to stop Star Wars. So we had Jedi soda, really terrible taste, but lots of sugar probably. We had Star Wars ice cream. We had our own collector cards, of course. So you can find a lot of odd and unique items in Sweden after the fact. And the new company, they were really good at marketing, so especially they were good at the point of sales material and displays. So they did a lot of unique marketing material for the line. So that's a real nice area to collect for Swedish items. Sometimes you feel like it was like a big US company making all the stuff, but it was such a big success, and the demand was crazy. So they could do a lot of nice stuff. I bet you're wondering, what happened to the video and war debate in Sweden? Well, it was still there. To your left, you see a diploma. They created a competition for the kids to take pictures of the toys. And it says, for outstanding efforts in Star Wars. But what happened? Oh my God, Star Wars again? War? So they had to change the diploma to for outstanding efforts for the people of the stars. Cute. Well, last slide. A quick question. Can you see any Swedish-related items on there? Any quick? A big fan should know all four. Pernilla August, me, Skywalker. Ludwig Martinsson wrote the theme for Mandalorian and Boba Fett. The next one, Anton, is a Lucasfilm employee doing concept work for Mandalorian and Boba Fett. And the last one it was my mistake. Carrie Fisher's necklace is Finnish, not Swedish.
Yeah, I was going to call that out. That's Laponia, the company from Finland. Yeah.
So I forgot about that. So, well, like, we take all the good stuff to Sweden, and but Finland used to be Swedish. It's like so, yeah.
Good job, Matthias.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay, so one of the first things that drives my attention this panel that you can see the difference between all of us without accents. And we are speaking the same language, but we have our own way to speak it, right? So I feel like in Mexico happened the same thing. We have the same movie, but we did a few things different. We got the movie, but of course we put it on Spanish. And the thing that you can see there is the actual, what's the name of this? The opening crawl in Spanish. And it's pretty rare. Actually, you can see in your left, in your left, the Spanish original copy from the Lucasfilm archives. And they save it because they save every language, so I got that in my collection. And one of the things it's very important for Mexico in collectibles-wise is the first items that Little Lady sold. The 12-inch figures was the first ones, and one of the things it drives a lot of my attention is the dates it was released. It was released in February 1978. So that means it was before Kenner 12-inch figures. So we're debating between the 3 3/4 when they hit the stores in America and in the States. But we don't know yet, but I feel like Little Lady shot first. I really like the box art on Little Lady figures because they're based on the press kits from 1976. So you can see the cover right here with the letters, with the M backwards, And so you can see the difference there. And then you can see also inside the book, it's right the cover of the box. And in the back, you can see all the pictures from the characters, and it's also inside the book. Also, another thing that we make it a little different, a little more spicy, is the 3PO picture. 3PO for 3 3/4 was a total different picture from the Kenner one. And we take it from, this is like the original negative, but it's backwards. You guys know that those are translucent, so it's kind of hard to see what is the front and what is the back. So that's why they do it that way. Also, another really nice picture is Boba Fett, and you guys know that the figure came with a removable rocket. It's not the rocket launch, it's a removable rocket. And one of the things that really drives my attention is that it's the same picture, but a different language, but a lot of people is now confusing about the figure between rocket launch and the removable rocket, but it's still really expensive too. I feel like rocket launch is more a prototype, and this is the actual figure produced in Mexico, right? And the piece that you can see in your right, it's unpainted, non-sonic wellet Little Lady piece that I have in my collection too. And the back, it drives my attention too because we made it in black and white because probably it's a little more cheaper, right? So we based the images from the Kenner Ripper book from 1983. As you can see, the images are exactly the same ones. And then another piece that I really love, and it's the early pieces from 1978, is the Coca-Cola pieces, the bottle caps. And one of the funny things is the artwork is totally Mexican. It's not based on something American. And one of the things that drives my attention to is the guy who was in charge of the marketing in 1978 in Coca-Cola was this guy. This guy was the guy who get the idea to have this promotion. But the government in Mexico put a fine. Is that correct? Fine? Because government doesn't want to have collectibles consuming another products. You know, like Coca-Cola, a lot of people is buying Coca-Cola because the Star Wars bottle caps. So they got a fine, but they were very successful. And this guy, later on, was the president of Mexican president. He was Fox. So with this, I feel like I'm more like the collector of history more than the actual items, because I love those kind of histories. I love those kind of details. And even if you don't have those products, but you have the knowledge, it makes you a collector too. So that's what I like about that, right? So, your turn.
Well, hello. Hola a todos amigos. Well, we try to make a little review about the top toy lines released in Argentina only in 1983. There are only 7 figures. We can see a back of one of the figures. You can see maybe all the line. Don't ask for Lando now. We have the more common figures and the rarest figures. And the next, okay. I don't see. Okay, ahora sí.
Well, hello. My name is Diego, and this is my counterpart, Gabrielito.
Gabriel. Chapa for friends.
And well, this is the complete set of the Top Toys figures released in Argentina. The main different part of the Top Toys line is that they were released on a Return of the Jedi card, but the back is like a 12 back, right? So one of the most interesting part of the Top Toys story is that the figures were actually made in Argentina with molds that weren't the same that used in Little Larry or whatever. So that made the differences on the figures. They are smaller. They don't have the peg holes under their feet. So this is one of the more big differences. But you have like different accessories in all of them, different paint.
No holes on feet. Mm-hmm. And in the case of the Chef Chirpa, they renamed to Osito Ewok.
A little beer.
Yeah.
Beer, very strong. I like beer, no beer.
Yeah. Me too. Anyone have beer? Okay. These are the 2 more common figures you can find.
They are not common. No one is common anymore.
No.
So you can actually find a Top Toys loose figure, but it's hard to find them with the accessories, right?
Yes.
So these are the most common.
To see. Yeah. Not to have. We go to the next.
And we are escalating on the hard ones. You have Logray, that was the brujo de la tribu Ewok, que sería something like the witch of the Ewok.
They will bleach.
Yeah, try. We have a Darth Vader. Nobody in Argentina pronounces well their names, so the Stormtrooper was a Stromper, the Darth Vader was a Dark Vader.
Darth Vader.
All the time. And some funny part of the names is maybe Mexico too. You know, Mexico and Argentina, we call it Arturito. Because it's little Arthur, R2D2, it sounds like a little Arthur. Yeah. One of the most funny of the names is probably from Spain. When you have a Chewbacca, it's called masca tabaco. That means chew tobacco. He uses to chew something, I don't know, tobacco maybe.
In Swedish, it's chew the back.
Oh,
we
really?
translate it to back. Yeah. So,
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know
just
that.
as good as you guys.
Yeah, okay. Well, Luke Skywalker in Spain is called Lucas Trotacielos. That means sky trotter, right?
Yeah, sky runner.
Sky running.
He's only trotter. Well,
Let's see the next two. No, only one.
well, this is one of the most
Difficult.
rare
Yes.
because it's a different figure. This is the only one in Top Toys that have a zero, how do you say, country of origin.
Country of origin.
And all the others that doesn't. And the bowcaster is different. It doesn't have the handle. I don't know how the arm, yeah. It doesn't have that. And it's different in any way. The pouch is unpainted, so it's very different.
Okay. Well, this is the look and the
The caballero.
el caballero maestro Jedi.
Maestro Jedi, not Jedi.
Jedi Master. Okay. Well, they have a different weapon, and the cape is totally different in
pattern.
the fabric. It's very translucid. It's okay. You can find the figure loose, but without accessories, because the accessories is the most difficult part to find. Actually, it's very rare to get one complete. Or
There are only a few carded
yeah.
available in collectors. I don't know. Gus, you have one? I don't. No.
It's hard to find.
This is mine. I have the bubble, I have the figure, I have everything, but not really.
Okay.
Derek probably has them. Yeah.
Next. Sure.
Well, and this is,
Show.
guess the name.
Maestro Jedi.
Maestro. Master Yoda. Okay.
Luke is the Maestro Jedi, and this is El Maestro.
El Maestro.
It's bigger.
Yeah. They are both master. I don't know when. But, this figure is one of the most hard to find, and you can see in the loose one the belt is broken. Yes. Actually, there is 100% sure. I am 100%. There is not even one with a, even in the blister with the belt complete and not broken. This is mine actually on the loose one and the carded one. And it's one of the rarest because the snake is different, the plastic is different, the eyes, the paint is really, really different.
Really ugly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is just a little story. Back in the 90s, I was one day in my lunch break. I went to pay some bills. I have money like this, and I was going to pay. And I crossed the street, and I saw, we call it kioscos. It's like a place where you can buy. No, it wasn't. When magazines and cigarettes and whatever. And I saw all of them stapled one by one on the wall, and I say, "What?" And I asked, "How much are those, sir?" And he said, like today, $1 each. Okay, I don't pay the bills. Give me all of them, please. So I didn't want to stay much longer on this place because I was afraid that the guy understand that probably was his biggest mistake ever. So I took them like stapled like they were, like this, and I ran with 20 of them for the street. So that doesn't happen very often, right? Well, this is a piece of story we want to talk because we had on the last celebration in Chicago, we had an interview with the owners from Top Toys. The owner actually passed away, I don't know, last year?
Yes.
Last year. Yeah, 6 months ago. So it was the last and the only one interview he made talking and speaking about Star Wars, because he made others about Motu, but never Star Wars. And we asked him, because all the people ask us ever about figures like the Lando, if that was released in Argentina, or even Boba Fett or others that were. Mm-hmm. But actually, it's a fake. It never was released. They don't even have the molds, and the Lando's gift not even was imported to Argentina. So there was no one, not even in the 80s or never.
Never. Confirmed.
Yeah. Mythbusters.
Yeah.
This is a fake.
Fake. Ultra fake.
Mega fake.
Okay. This is good.
And Mark said we weren't going to cover Antarctica, but you know what? We're going to cover Antarctica.
All right.
There's actually Star Wars in Antarctica, and it's kind of a crazy story.
Argentina too.
Yeah, arguably Argentina. I love traveling for Star Wars. In fact, I've visited every single one of the people here in their countries and seen their collections, and it's pretty awesome. Part of the experience as a collector is to meet people from all parts of the world.
But sorry, any of them give you an asado?
No, they didn't give
All
asado
right, okay.
like you guys. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But we had other fun with them too. I went on another trip with friends, Star Wars friends, so Elling and Jocelyn Hogue and Tom and Michael Stewart, and we went on a ship in Antarctica. And the restaurant on the ship, people would order Coke Zeros, and it was during the Rise of Skywalker promotion. We're like, oh my God, these are Rise of Skywalker Coke cans that we're getting in Antarctica. And so we switched from ordering wine and beer at dinner. We're like, well, I'll have Coke Zero. And all of us started ordering Coke Zero. And then the waiters caught on, and then the waiters were like, bring us bundles of Coke Zeros from everybody's table when they were done. They knew we wanted the Coke Zeros. So by the time we left Antarctica, we had bags filled with Coke Zero from Antarctica, because we thought, whenever else are you going to find collectibles, Star Wars collectibles from Antarctica? So we indeed are able to cover all the continents.
Yes, if anyone has any questions, then perhaps they could speak into the mic so they can be heard.
You have time for a few questions.
Covered everything.
The same problem with the prequels, the sequels, are they still hard to find, or are you guys getting more toys over the last, say, 20 years?
Because it's been easier
with the newer
to find
films.
for the newer movies than the older.
I guess the question was if it's been easier for us to find the modern or the new stuff over the years. Yeah, it changed completely. Of course, can't compare how it is in the States walking into old Toys R Us. Toys R Us doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, well, you get the idea. Yeah. No, so it changed completely. So it's like a madness all over, at least in Sweden, Scandinavia, all over Europe.
Well, for us, not quite. It took a little while. Very sort of 95. It was quite bleak still, and there wasn't a lot to pick up. Just the occasional basic wave. But I think now it's picked up a little bit. It ebbs and flows. Especially with eBay and people buy online now, so it's.
And I think since Disney's taken over, they've pretty much put Star Wars on everything they can now, right?
That's true.
So especially in Australia and Singapore, you see it on products all the time still.
But we are, of course, grateful for that. Thank you, Disney.
We are.
Yes.
Before we go, no, we had a question in the front.
How do you pronounce Star Wars in Swedish, and does it really mean Star Wars?
It is a literal translation, Star Wars, and it's Stjärnornas krig. Yeah, so it's just like, it means exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
Stjärnornas krig. But I'm from the south of Sweden. The one from the north, they don't agree with me. They don't understand me either, so don't you worry about that. But to me, it's Stjärnornas krig.
How do you say Return of the Jedi?
Jedins återkomst.
Jedi. Bless you.
Speaking of bootleg figurines and everything, I know there's the Uze collection out of Turkey and things like that. In Hungary, there were some really, really rare collectibles as well. And I'm wondering about collections maybe on the other side of the Iron Curtain at the point in time right before the fall. Are those generally going to be found in collections like yours, or are they going to be more esoteric?
I mean, I can say I traveled, some of us owned like bootlegs and things from other countries where they didn't have licensed Star Wars early on. Of the East Bloc countries as they were sort of changing, and I found Star Wars in some of those countries, but there were some countries like the Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia did have licensed Star Wars items, even in the 80s. When I went to Russia for the first time, and it was just like about a year after they just switched over to a market economy, they had flea markets everywhere and people just selling things in the streets. And I saw like they had hardcover books of Star Wars that were bootleg novels of Star Wars. I don't even know, because I can't read Russian, I don't even know if it was Star Wars inside the book, but the covers were Star Wars. So I would just buy up all this stuff. Years later when I went to Russia, we found in St. Petersburg, we found these flea markets that had just piles of bootleg things. I found them in Turkey. So a lot of countries, that just didn't have access to, global companies that were selling their products, would make up their own because Star Wars was so popular, it just cut across even the Iron Curtain. And but now, now this stuff is sold everywhere. Like I hunt cereal boxes in particular everywhere in the world. I have a huge network of friends. Some of these guys also help me find cereal boxes all over the world. When a film comes out, I have 300 contacts around the world that help me find, and they have them everywhere now. So they have Star Wars promotions in Central Asia, all of every country in Southeast Asia, Northern Africa, South Africa. The entire Americas are covered. So it's so different than back in the day because now like global brands are available everywhere.
Thank you. But remember those nesting dolls in Russia as well?
Yeah. When Mark traveled with us to Russia and we found like Russian nesting dolls with Star Wars and all sorts of cool crafty things they had.
Yeah.
I want to add that I never go to Costco, and Gus is the only reason I go to Costco.
Oh yes, there was a trip. There was a trip during episode 2, which is now 20 years old. Good God, it's 20 years old. Anyway, during episode 2, and we went to. We were trying to hunt down cereals mostly because of me, but we had some friends that were part of this, and Costco had special cereal boxes only in Costco. So there's a whole group of collector friends, and we filled multiple shopping carts with all these like huge Costco cereal boxes. And for each, there were like, I think 3 or 4 brands, and each brand had 6 variations, and they were all huge. So it was about 4 shopping carts filled with cereal boxes. And Luis was with us. We had Steve Sansby, Duncan Jenkins was with us. So and fortunately, when we got out of the supermarket, we found somebody who was collecting food for a charity. So we just opened all the boxes, flattened all the boxes, and then the food at least did not go to waste. It actually went to people who needed cereal or needed food.
That's the reason why in Mexico we have those feasts.
I remember once getting cereal boxes for you, and I was at the checkout, and tons of them. As the lady was scanning, I realised there were a few creases on some of the boxes, and I thought, oh no, he's not going to like this. So hang on, and I ran all the way back, and there's all these people behind me, and there's creases on the boxes. Hang on, and just trying to explain why. So they're just looking at me, and everyone's talking, and it was very embarrassing. That's your fault.
It's my fault. All right, we have time for one more question.
Hi, I actually collect like rare and unique comic books, and in my industry, there's so many things I'm not actually able to buy. I'm only able to trade because the people, it's one of a kind things for one of a kind things. Can one or two of you guys give your experiences of being forced to trade something really cherry for something else really cherry that you had to get your hands on?
all the time.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Like last night, I did trades. It's the way to work around it, and that's why networking and being with friends is so good, and doing the trades instead of just buying and selling. It's a way to collect for like 99.9% of.
That's
no matter
right.
where from, or even if you got money, it's not all about how expensive a comic is, or is it $100 or $80. Sometimes you don't want to sell and you have to trade because it's so. Well, yeah, I don't know if that. Yeah.
No, that's right.
There's a lot of unique things, like very, very unique things that you want to keep, even if you sometimes don't collect that, but you know this is a very unique thing. And sometimes even the money can buy those things. So it's a good way to trade it. You know, trades are sometimes the best way.
I actually would say that cash isn't king when it comes to this hobby, because sometimes cash will not pull those pieces out of collections, only other pieces will. And you have to be ready and willing to give them up if you really want to get it, and that's what we all have to do.
You just have to wait till... Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, you just have to wait till the Swedes have had too much to drink before you do deals with them. Man. That usually doesn't take too long, and then you get a good deal.
Talking about.
Awesome.
Well, listen, before we go, I just wanted to give a shout out to Paul Naylor and Ben Sheehan, one of them should be sitting here in my spot. But a big thank you to Tony DeMata and his people for all their hard work, and to... Oh, I can mention that. Oh, yes. And I actually have an Effont Mon coin that he's going to give out to everyone here. So that's an extra bonus for today.
And a Star Tot.
And a Star Tot, of course, as well.
Yeah.
And a big thank you to Chris Giagulius and his people, and especially to Gus Lopez. Without this guy, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you, guys. Thanks,